All right, we're live. Tim Green, welcome. It's great to see you.
Great to be here. What a pleasure, Eric.
Yeah, super fun, man. I mean, you and I get to talk a lot, and I always enjoy our conversation. I think we finally met in person, was like 2-3 years ago at IDEA, and now you guys are supporting the podcast, which, as you know, I'm eternally grateful for. It's great to be partnered with TeamUp and have my brands align with you guys, because I really appreciate the work and the technology and the I guess the vision and the value that you guys want to bring to the market. So it's going to be a really fun conversation, and the topics that we've identified, and I'm sure we'll get to them, but who knows what'll happen in a 45-minute conversation, right? Is the opportunities, kind of taking a framing of, and I agree with a lot of things that we just talked about prior to recording, is like, it's a very positive time. It's a very opportunistic time to be within our industry. I mean, now there's a lot of changes we can talk about. It's funny, I'm reading a book now that's kind of rehashing my memories of the pandemic and everything that happened and the shutdowns and all this stuff. And it was awful. But we don't have to talk about that anymore. But what we've come around is, I think we have some very defined opportunities, and the development of technology, the trend, the younger generational forces, all these things are putting us into a really cool position to do some really impactful work as an industry. And that's exciting topic for me. So before we get into all that, Tim, maybe you can just give us some insights into your background, how you got to be the chief operating officer at TeamUp, just for context, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, first of all, I just want to say it's a real pleasure to be here, Eric. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I really like the quality, the trajectory, and particularly just, you always go out to try and uncover intelligent insights into things that are happening in the industry. So as an avid listener, it's a real pleasure to be here. Yeah, my background, I mean, I think my ethos personally has just always been about helping people. And I can remember being, kind of 13 years old, and my parents had a business, and I can remember like feeling no greater pleasure than them needing something done on the business and me just being able to like jump in and help them out with the computer stuff or like whatever it was. I'd love to say I'm like this, like something has changed in there, but actually that's just always been my ethos. And, so going from, the teenager helping out on the computer to, starting to help like business owners through a marketing agency that I set up. And then with TeamUp, really just expanding that viewpoint and just like trying to help people. And, nowadays that's more with, like a large team and, helping them help our customers, more than doing it directly. And so it's all been really pleasurable. And, it's just like a natural trajectory. But really that's kind of my philosophy, is just, dig in and try and help people, and good stuff has come from it. So maybe it works. Maybe it's a good thing to take away.
How long has TeamUp been around? When did you guys actually found the company?
I always say it's like 10 years, but unfortunately it's more now. So it was like 2012. So we're like 13 years now. And I'd say, 2013, we had 50 customers, and now we serve over 4,000, fitness businesses worldwide.
Wow. And where was I think was the original traction in CrossFit? Is that right? Or where did you guys originally, what was your target market originally?
Well, our target market was going to the gym. So at heart, we were CrossFitters. And right. So that was the environment we're in. And really it's just, solving problems there. So that was really, why we started getting into CrossFit, was because, we were at boxes, training, a CrossFit Bold in London, Reach Fitness, still a customer, one of our first customers. And, we really kind of immersed in the community. And it was like early days, like probably, less than 50 CrossFits in the UK, maybe less, just a few thousand worldwide, as it was really starting to take off. So it was a really exciting time in fitness. I feel like you were around at that time as well. Like you were a CrossFitter right back as well.
Yeah, I was. I think originally I did my first CrossFit workout in 2008. And then
wow. Yeah.
Was, I think 6 to 9 months later, I was opening a gym. It was crazy. Yeah. It was like, I just knew that this is something I really wanted to do. And, in my mind, the business model wasn't terribly complicated. So it was like now I'm not saying it was easy, like for sure. I mean, but the business model isn't complicated. The day-to-day operations and the working with personnel and, the challenges that you have as a gym owner. Those are numerous and serious, but the business model is simple. Yeah. And I think one of the things that, you and I have talked about like over time is this sense of community that very few other industries outside fitness can create. Right. And how that evolution, I think CrossFit's such a prime example of like, most people used to think about gyms and coaches and trainers as coaches and trainers and just a place to go to work out. But as CrossFit evolved, it became a community hub. Like I used to joke that I basically ran like a church. Some weird way. And no offense to anybody who's of religious beliefs, but it was very similar when you looked at it in that framework. And it became a center point of community. Our Saturday morning classes were humongous, right? It was a great time. Everyone would go out to brunch afterwards, and it was very different. And, I know you've kind of focused on this, but how would you see the industry changing from like that point of we were trainers who just delivered workouts and now we're like center points of our local communities?
Well, that's a big question. Yeah. I think that the things that CrossFit got right, that people have really tried to replicate and to varying degrees of success. But one thing was really true about that early rise of CrossFit was that it really was a different direction for fitness. Like fitness has always been maybe slightly marginalized. Like it wasn't really cool in the same way. And there was something about that CrossFit movement and then the introduction of like athlete as a term into the fitness space. Suddenly it was seen as an endeavor, something that was a challenge and something that, people were like really pushing the boundary. And I think that, that's a really uniting factor. And, people come to gyms or fitness businesses for many different reasons. But, the strongest one is always that they have a goal in mind and they have something that they want to solve. And the fitness provider helps them facilitate that journey. And I think that is at its core what fitness is. It's helping people affect change in their lives and, kind of like helping facilitate and open that up in their lives. And it's a physical change, but it's also an emotional change. I did a white collar boxing tournament. My goodness, some time back now, but, I really went through that change myself. I did it was 3 months and suddenly I was training 8 times a week, 2 hours a time, running up the stairs next to a bridge, just to try and push the cardio some more. And then I did the slugfest boxing match at the local nightclub against, a guy named Gavin, and it was all a disaster, by the way. I mean, the day before I threw my shoulder in training, I was reliant on my long arms and my jab. And the first punch that hit me knocked one of my contact lenses out. It was like everything was bad. But my only pride point is that I got knocked down and then I got up. And I was seeing 4, like a classic cartoon vision. But I saw it out. But that was just phenomenal. And it was like, just true transformation in who I was and my personality. And I could really feel those changes affect other parts of my life. And I think that's where it's a community around people all trying to make that change in their lives. And I think CrossFit really crystallized that because it was so performance focused. And the best of fitness now really understands that point. The high rocks is, the kind of performance focused, fitness environments.
Well, there's very few, as an adult, there's very few opportunities to push yourself physically and emotionally to a point that you didn't think you could get to. Like if anybody's ever taken a CrossFit class and been around when in a group setting when someone gets their first pull-up, it's freaking magical, right? And that you can visibly see the transformation in that person. Like, holy shit, I never thought I would do an unassisted pull-up. Or then you can insert any major thing like, a muscle up or, 100-pound back squat, whatever it may be. Like you just see that transformation in people, and people who walked in kind of, maybe head down, shoulders rolled over, now walk around with their chin up, shoulders back, right? It's just a really cool thing. And I think the community is like a holy grail for fitness businesses. Like in what ways, but a lot of people don't know how to get to it. They want that feel, right? They want that community feel. I think any business wants to have a community feel because that's what builds, referrals. That's what builds loyalty. Like, how do you intentionally do that? And I know you guys do that a lot with TeamUp, like from a technological standpoint, but what guidance would you give to fitness businesses that want to build community with a lot of intention?
I think first of all, there isn't a one size fits all approach. What works for, say, a yoga studio, isn't going to be the same as CrossFit, but people are still progressing and challenging themselves and moving forward. But some degree of flexibility is really important, and like understanding your clients. Like, you don't need to have workout tracking for your yoga class and kind of high five people if they, manage to do a downward dog. But there are progressions, there is like a confidence progression that comes as part of it. So I think progression is really important, but I think that overall for those businesses, retention is much more important than acquisition. And I think that, really focusing on your current members and helping them be successful is ultimately what is going to drive the engine of your community, because they then bond with other members. They're on that journey together. You don't leave people behind. I've definitely, I've seen examples of, CrossFits, for example, where they're very elite focused. And then of course they leave behind the weight loss crew. And that in itself that's the kind of thing that really undermines the overall ethos of the gym. So I think like community is like, first of all, it's holistic. It's like everybody is involved. I think also, not understanding the profile of your customers and also learning when to say no, because there are certain people who fit within your environments and some people who aren't going to be a good fit. And so fostering that healthy community and making sure that everybody's goals are aligned, is really, really, really fundamental. Yeah. Really good insights. And you know what, I think a question I have in today's day and age, there's a lot of software options out there. And I think you and I have talked maybe offline about how software is getting easier and faster to develop. Like, people can get into the market really quick with AI and, all the different technologies out there, and they can do it cheaper and they can do it faster. So, it becomes really critical is like, how does one stand out? Like what is your overall strategy for TeamUp to stand out in a market that, it's gotten consistently more crowded over the last 10 years? There's just more competition. Well, I think firstly, cheaper and faster, yes, but not necessarily. So I think, but I do think that, AI and the other technologies that are so easily within reach now of, business owners, do just present like an amazing opportunity. And it's just never been easier to set up a business, do things, of good quality, much, much faster than ever before. And it's an amazing time to start a business, and particularly to start a fitness business, which are just growing in importance in people's lives. And, so for TeamUp, it's really about understanding the business and what they need to achieve. And really like at our core, like we're built for group fitness. And so we've really focused on getting that right, like getting that experience right, making sure that, you can facilitate an amazing customer experience for your users. And, unlike traditional software, we've built everything from the ground up, and it's, we've always been an online only platform, mobile apps, everything else. And it's really designed for group fitness. But it's not just about management. We also, we then really focus on helping our businesses grow. And, we're launching new features every week, every 2 weeks, and listening to our users and what they need to be able to improve their business. So really focusing on improving the efficiency of bookings, improving retention, and just giving lots of insights to help them accelerate their business. And that combination really is it's fundamentally, if you're a group fitness business, you need that type of engine behind the business, because otherwise the admin and the complexity of the business is just overwhelming, and it keeps you away from being in front of your customers and being personal and building that great community. And then also going out and finding new customers and doing exciting things that are going to, attract people into your environment. And I think it's always been a challenge for new business owners where they overthink things and they spend too much time on manual processes and really they really slow themselves down. You speak to those business owners, 3 years into their business, and they look back and they say, well, I wish I hadn't wasted all of that time at the beginning doing this stuff. And that's really what software gives you. It's a an unfair starting advantage when you're launching your business so that you can skip those first 3 years of bad processes and just get straight to, giving a really great service.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I ran a group fitness-based gym. We also have personal training, things like that. So when you compare to maybe software solutions for health clubs or a personal training studio, like what are the things that you discard? Like things you're like, we don't need this, and we're going to focus on these things instead. Like what are the specific qualities of a software solution like TeamUp that is unique to group fitness?
Well, I think there's obviously a lot of crossover between those things, but I think particularly for group fitness, it's really important that the experience that the gym goer, the fitness user has is really smooth and they really enjoy it. And you don't create friction in the process, because friction, a bit like if you go to an e-commerce website and your purchase, like you try to put your card details in and then the card details have deleted and you have to refill out the form, or your stuff has then kind of disappeared from your basket or something. Those types of things, they create this friction, which means that people get distracted and they want to go and do something else. I think like with fitness, quite uniquely or particularly with a strong emphasis, fitness is an activity which people are very nervous about starting, particularly at the first time. And they're filled with doubts. They're on your website. They want to book a trial session, or they want to buy a class pack and come along and see a class. They need to be reassured, and they need the experience, something which just really fits their expectations. And like, the more professional it is, the more easy it is, the more it fits the way that they expect that process to go, the more likely they are to not abandon the process and to get involved and to get over that kind of nervous gate that's standing in front of them. So our job is to facilitate that. It's to make that part of it almost invisible, so that people they associate that professionalism with your business, and then they can just get in and start getting the real benefits from the service. And so a bit like a defender in soccer, we're doing our best job if you never see us on the TV screen.
And thank you for using soccer to us, United States.
I translated automatically.
Yeah, translation. Yeah, it's really good. Well, I think that's, I've been involved in enough software and app companies now to know that, when it's simple and seamless to the user, it's very difficult to develop. It's very expensive and time consuming. And, and that's a challenge, I think, for people like in your seat as a leader of a software company, is the consumer expectations now are so high for technology, right? Like Amazon ruined everything. Everyone wants everything in 2 clicks, right? They want everything to work like Amazon. And it's so like Amazon is, worth $1 trillion, and they have a lot of developers who work on this stuff. So, I mean, you've been doing this now for 13 years, like, how have you seen the consumer expectations for technology, specifically into like the group fitness space, change? Has it been very noticeable? What have you seen?
Well, it's, there are things that have become a lot easier, and there's things that have become a lot harder. There definitely are, there are more standardized technologies available now, which means that some things become much more straightforward to achieve. I mean, Amazon is a great example. They run huge server farms through their AWS service, and they have really cracked like security and redundancy and quality. Well, going back 15, 20 years, those kind of things just didn't exist. Like, you actually rented a box in a warehouse somewhere. That was your server. And then the reliability and downtime and problems that you face were things that you needed to have developers maintain and look after. So there's things that have become, things in there which have become a lot easier. I think what has become harder is really providing value for your users. And it's very easy to do things simply, but it's very hard to get into the detail of them and really understand how you can help your customers drive forward. And I think for us, the approach is that we see ourselves as partners to our customers. And, we're not just kind of selling something off the shelf that they then implement in their business. It's like, it's a constant process. You're talking 24/7 support, uptime. It's a massive machine that supports businesses, and, you're constantly speaking, learning from them, and then building the features that are going to help them drive forward and do the next thing. Sometimes businesses try to develop those things for themselves, or they go for the cheap or free option when they first start their business. But the problem there is that, you're not playing to your best strengths as a business owner. If we're like, I'm not a certified fitness professional or CrossFit instructor. I mean, I probably could fake it, I think, at this point, but I'm much better at providing the infrastructure for a CrossFit gym to be able to run their classes than I am running those classes. And so I think it's just everybody understanding what their strengths are and then investing in what is really going to drive their business forward. So I think it's a really nice parallel because, people have, society has grown up and, we have a real need to support each other in different ways. So it's a nice parallel to community.
I want to get, with some of the time we have, I want to get your insights on group fitness in general. I mean, you look at that, we talked about CrossFit, we talked about yoga, we talked about, a lot of boutique models, spinning, all these things, probably put martial arts in there. When you look at the health of group fitness and the opportunities and challenges ahead of it as a category, like what do you see, over the next, let's just say 5 years, that time horizon, because it's easy? I
think it's group fitness is a vital part of many people's lives. And I see that continuing to be so and continue to grow in importance. I think that people in general, there's probably split into several groups. There are groups who want new, exciting, different. And then there are some who want community, connection, bonding, and solidity, and consistency. So I think that those markets exist now. And I think that those different types of fitness consumers, you have to market to both of those. I think over the next 5 years, there's obviously going to be a lot more technology. Like we're going to continue going down the route of, supporting trainers. I think, AI particularly has a lot of great things to offer. I think some areas that are really exciting are things like workout creation, updates, community engagement, because there are things which have taken trainers a long time in the past, and they've had to invest a lot of their own time in making sure that service delivery part of things is looked after. So I think those things will get better and better, and we've seen really good coaching tools in the market. We integrate with a service called Boxmate, which does CrossFit workout tracking and member engagement. And they've done some really amazing things around AI and workout generation. So they look at the whole history of the fitness customer, and then the AI automatically devises workouts based on the history and based on their experience level and all that kind of stuff. So I think those kind of things are really going to support making an even better experience in the future. And so I think those sides are really exciting. I do think we're going to see the kind of the robot instructor. We already have that to some degree. I think the Les Mills classes, in some big box gyms, you go and press a button and you get the class. I don't really see it working. I think that it's a convenience because it's on demand. And I think that it's a bit like doing your own workout in a gym. But I really think that the human instructor, whether it's on your Peloton bike or whether it's face to face in a class, will continue to be really, really vital, and an area where people can elevate their expertise if they really are good at what they do.
Well, it's accountability. I think you can't overstate how important accountability is, and no one's going to feel like they're accountable to a fitness on demand workout or an app, right? A human makes all the difference. It's especially your peers. And you get into a group class, I see a spin class here at our local gym at the Wave, and I think it's Tuesdays at 5. It's packed, dude. It's packed, and a lot of it's I say old timers, but I'm like, God, am I getting to old timer status? It's people over the age of 60 for the most part, retirees, and this is their community, and they're holding each other accountable, and they're, and it's every once in a while I'll jump in and I'm like, this is the greatest group ever. These people are so nice and kind and welcoming and encouraging. It's just a great environment. And I think that's really important that they have that group, and they know that if someone doesn't show up, they're going to call Susie and be like, Susie, where you been? Right. And that's something it's very, very powerful. When you look at this time, beginning of 2025, the opportunities for people to start new businesses. Like, we talked about the pandemic. We lost a lot of gyms. We lost a lot of people within our industry have gone somewhere else. But, I feel like it's evolved now where it's a really good time. Like, what signs are you seeing that you'd love to encourage people to get in now and start a fitness business?
At its heart, if you are a people person, it is an absolutely phenomenal business, to play to your strengths. And I think that, we can get into like the kind of mechanics of the market and why there's great opportunity. I think it is hard, it's really an opportunity to create a business where you really matter in people's lives, and it can be very, very fulfilling. And I think that often people forget that aspect of why they want to do something, because do you want to, you can start lots of different types of businesses, but does like your Amazon drop shipping business, bring you like that connection and joy? It depends on your personality, I've been reflecting on this, and I think that at its heart, the fitness instructors and fitness professionals now, they're not just instructors, they're kind of, tribe leaders, and they foster these really deep connections between their audience and accountability. And I think like naturally, if you look back at history, we've always had these clusters in society. And I think that the, technology has kind of moved us like away from it, but it's also like facilitating us like going back and like creating this need for us to all be together more at some point. And I think that starting a business now in the fitness industry means that, you're providing, it's more than just a workout, so we went through a phase where these things became very commoditized. And I think now there's like a real appreciation and respect from the market about if you're delivering something truly unique, that actually it's like more than just a workout. It's like a transformative experience that is connecting you with other people. And if you put it like that, your $20 ticket to go do that session is like incredible value. It's like cheaper than a round of drinks. And, you're right there in that mix. So I think that facilitation of connection is like really exciting and rewarding. And I think that the best businesses, if they can understand how to create that, then it's just such a great time to go out and like create something unique. So yeah, I mean, technology facilitation we touched on, it's obviously so much easier now as well to start these things. And so it is a very, very exciting time, and lots of potential for the new entrants.
I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. Like it's truly like just this mass convergence of things. I mean, wellness as a category, right? You're seeing all these recovery modalities and contrast, and wellness experiences, right? Wellness travel, like large hotel chains are bringing gyms in, more wellness experiences. Gyms aren't just like a corner, it's small, like a unused hotel room with some dumbbells in it. Like they're creating experiences, then opening them up to the local communities, and you get all the technologies, right? You get regenerative or preventative health, health optimization. You got obviously artificial intelligence. We can't talk about that enough. You get the, GLP-1 and the Ozempic factor, whatever, good, bad, we'll find out. And now it seems like in the United States too, we have perhaps, I'm going to talk about this in my quarterly report with Alex and Juliet, maybe we have some political will, at least here in the United States, to change our health programs and the way we approach it, because we're not a healthy country. I don't know if you noticed. So I think for people who are very mission driven and creative, right, and all the tools that we have now available to us to create these really unique experiences, it's a dude, go all in. Like if people are listening right now, they're like, I haven't had this concept in my mind. Like maybe it's like a wellness, but we also have a group fitness, and we'll do all these things. Cool, fucking go for it. It's a great time.
I think also there are some really exciting franchise concepts around. And I think if people just want to, they passion for the product and they just really want to get out there and do it, I think getting on board with one of these, rising franchises, I think is a really interesting way to get involved. Take the expertise of a group who have been there and done it and like optimized it, and then go take it to your local community or take it to a different area. And yeah, it seems like there's so many competing franchises as well, so many different interesting ideas and, exciting new concepts. I think that's a great route potentially for people.
Tim, this is like I guess, a personal question for you, but not really. We have buzzwords in our industry that seem to change every year. This year I was just at Connected Health and Fitness recently, and of course, the big ones were GLP-1 and artificial intelligence. Those are the two big things that everyone talked about constantly, and for good reason, right? They're very transformative. But we also have like trends in like women in strength training, specifically for women. This longevity thing of we're shifting, from hey, we're doing 6-week challenges to no, this is something you do for life, right? Which I think is subtle but significant. When you look at like these major things that we're talking about right now, like what trends do you think will truly have the biggest impact and change on what we do as an industry?
I don't think at its heart, I agree with you that shift to long term versus, get ready for the beach is really strong. And that feeling that people, have like prioritized fitness in their lives rather than it be, I need to change something that's wrong necessarily. It's like, oh no, it's actually like core to who I am. And this is, this provides me purpose. So I think those macro trends are really interesting. I think you also touched on health, and I think the, health, like health funding, things like that, which are fluctuating, I think will drive people to look at preventative rather than to look at fixes. But I'm not sure on the AI. I think people have jumped on it as, as like, I don't quite understand this thing. So it's going to transform the world. But, and it absolutely will, it's accelerating our learning and access to information, and, a bit like a Alta Vista or a Google, of the .com phase. But I think at its heart, it doesn't really fundamentally shift the group fitness experience. And, it supports, it extends, it, kind of drives quality. But I'm not sure those are the biggest, the biggest trends within the industry. I think there's some really big players who put a lot of money into at-home workouts, and that money seems to be floating around in a bubble at the moment. And I'm not sure where that lands, because it doesn't seem like Apple Health is going to become the most important thing in people's lives, and so I'm not sure how that shakes out. But I think that's good for the independent, community-based organizations, really. It's almost reminding people of what they're missing.
Yeah. I've asked this question of a couple of guests, and it's kind of a fun one. With all of your extra free time that you have right now, Tim, if you were gonna open a gym in your local town, what would it look like? What would the concept look like? What would you lean into? What would be your choice? And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to make a ton of business sense. It would be just something that you would love to do.
I can't not be business minded. I think if I was going to, and I apologize for that, because I'd love to say CrossFit box. I just want to open a CrossFit box and turn up there every day, someone else coach. And, obviously that would be great. But no, I actually think if I was going to invest in something right now, I would invest in automation, and I would look at serving the parts of the fitness market which can't currently access fitness due to scheduling or life circumstance. And I think there's some really interesting businesses, in this sector. There's one up in Canada called Safe Sweat, and they do, self-access, small gym environments. And it's really interesting what they're doing, because you think it's just kind of busy professionals can't make time to work. No, it's mothers, who have to bring their baby along with them. It's fitness influencers who want to be able to film and not get in the way of other people's equipment. And I kind of love automation, and I love the kind of the technology behind it. So I think that if I was going to invest in something, that's what I'd be really, really interested in. But that doesn't change my love for group fitness. But I think that maybe that could be an extra dimension to group fitness facilities and an extra revenue stream that could be really interesting.
Well, I think group fitness, and we talked about all the different various kinds, like it's a staple of the industry now, right? Like it's a core component. Like, you mentioned CrossFit is up and down from their, brand leadership is seeing some challenges, but still at the grassroots level, CrossFit gyms are fundamental pieces of the community. So are yoga studios, or all the group fitness that we've already outlined here. But the new stuff, right? Someone who's entrepreneurial like you is probably thinking like, okay, what's the next frontier? And that sounds really interesting to me. And I may look into them and see if I can get them on an interview, because that sounds really fascinating. Where are they out of? Six Sweat? Are they out of like Toronto? It sounds like a Toronto thing.
No, they're Vancouver.
Vancouver, okay.
The founder is Emre. I can't actually remember his surname, but I'll make an intro for you. He'd be a really good guy. They took it to Dragon's Den as well. So I mean, they really have, they've done some really interesting things marketing wise. I would say on CrossFit that, their challenge is to recapture the narrative, among people who are doing CrossFit workouts. I mean, I think in my local area here, there's maybe like 4 CrossFit boxes. None of them are affiliated. So everyone's still doing WODs. They're still got the community aspect, everything else, but they're unaffiliated. And I think they can figure out how to get people back into the fold and really like drive that community side, then they're a phenomenal brand and concept and force. So, and I'd love to see them turn it around and succeed.
Me too. Last question I always ask people here, Tim, is, how the chief operating officer at TeamUp, what do you need help with? If people are listening, you want them to reach out to you. Yeah, what would you like to hear from them about?
I'd love to hear from anyone in the fitness industry who resonated with anything we talked about today, particularly group fitness operators who are struggling with their operations, or maybe they completely disagree with what we said today. And I'd love to have that conversation. The best place to reach me is on LinkedIn. I'm really, medium responsiveness to messages, but, definitely reach me there. And also, if you're interested in learning more about TeamUp and what we do, then we're at goteamup.com. So yeah, search up TeamUp and come and check us out. So if you think it might be interesting, we're always interested to have conversations with people.
Awesome. And you and I were just talking about events this year. Coaches Congress, right? That's the one that you're going to be at for sure.
Yeah, I'll probably be around at a few of the industry events. So Coaches Congress, really great event, like focused on the CrossFit market. And we're sponsoring the London edition of it. London, the UK is a big market for us. Really love the community there. So yeah, definitely going to be there. We'll see on the others, see what pops up. I think there are a few interesting new ones coming around. So yeah, we'll be around.
Awesome. Tim, thank you for joining me on this late evening, your time. It's always a pleasure. And, once again, thank you so much for the support of the podcast. And I encourage people to check out what TeamUp does. They do really good work and they're really good people. So appreciate the time. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Green.
Thanks, Eric.